Hello, everybody. This is Ivan Staňo, your host of the webinar today called Fireside Chat with ORBIS. And we have a lot of people coming in and logging in now, as we can see in our GoToWebinar control panel. So we'll give it one more minute before we officially kick it off. So get ready, guys. Okay, so Janko, you're here?
I'm here. Hi, Ivan. Hi, everybody.
Hello, Janko, and welcome everybody. Welcome to the next Resco webinar. This version or this edition is going to be a little bit special. Instead of doing more of the classical webinar where we just present and talk about topics that we think are important, we're introducing a new format that we call Resco Fireside Chat, to make the whole experience a little bit more interactive and a little bit more dynamic. Few house cleaning comments. You're all attendees, you're in listen only mode. That means Janko and we can't really hear you, but we really encourage you to be active using, first of all, polls. We created together with Janko 3 different polls where we would love to hear your opinion, your ideas, and your answers to help us shape the conversation a little bit. Also, please feel free to use the control panel of GoToWebinar or the GoToWebinar application to paste your questions, type them in, your comments. This would be really, really appreciated, because we have reserved a good amount of time towards the end of the webinar to go over the questions and make sure that you get the most value out of this. So as I mentioned, this is a new format, Fireside Chat. And with me today, I have Janko Sornik from ORBIS. ORBIS is one of the biggest partner in Germany, if not the biggest, right, Janko? But how about you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you and also your company, Janko.
Right. Thank you, Ivan. Well, hi, everybody again. And it's a real pleasure to have that Fireside Chat today with Resco. I'm with ORBIS since 2013, and I'm responsible for within our Microsoft division for all service-related topics like customer service, field service, mobile app, where we are going into detail today. ORBIS is a consulting company for SAP and Microsoft solutions, founded 1986, and we are up to 700 employees on basically mainly in Europe, but also in US and China.
Excellent. Janko, my pleasure. A few facts about myself, to be polite. So I've been at Resco for a little over 13 years, actually, so pretty long. And my role, I had several roles, to be honest, as I started at Resco when I was still studying. But currently, I'm based in our US company just outside of Boston, Massachusetts. And I oversee the daily operations of the US Resco entity, and I'm also evangelist of Resco products and technologies, as I tend to talk to a lot of customers and partners and prospects on a daily basis. I try to do a lot of webinars and interviews. And when times allow, you can probably meet me at some of the events and shows where Resco participates. So that much for the intro. And Janko and I had an idea that it would be good to introduce the topic of mobility, especially for the Dynamics 365 customers. But rather than giving you just simple facts and comparisons and listing out the options, we decided to take a little different spin on this topic, and we would love to discuss mobility in a more general way. So we prepared 6 different topics that we would love to discuss with you today, but make sure that you get some nice ideas from us as well. So to kick it off, we thought that we would pose a very simple question that, however, can have many different answers. And the question is, what really mobility means to company, to people, to employees, to partners, suppliers, etc. But before we answer the big question, my main question is, Janko, what does being mobile or mobility mean to you personally?
Yeah. What does it mean personally for me? Well, in the last couple of years, I realized that mobility means that I don't actually need a desk, right? I don't need to be sitting in the office. So all what I need is actually my laptop, because everything is stored in the laptop, ideally in the cloud, so that I can access all the required information and the communication platform to communicate with the team through that laptop. So of course, Wi-Fi or internet connectivity is required. I have it in the office, but I have it basically or hopefully at home as well, and also through my mobile device. So even on the road. So all what I need is my laptop. And since a couple of years, not even years, I would say the last 2 years, my smartphone also gives me quite a freedom in being mobile, because all the new cloud applications help me not to even open my laptop to perform the job. I can easily use my smart device, which helps me to organize myself in a different way. There are some challenges because you're always on, but I think there should be also some rules from the organization level which needs to be in place. But yeah, that mobility means for me actually freedom in what I'm doing.
I think that's a great answer, because end of the day, it's about freedom and flexibility for people to find the best ways how they can do their job and be productive. So I agree wholeheartedly. Sometimes when I talk to customers or prospective customers that are interested in mobility, I see two main differences in how companies think. There's a group of companies who approach mobility with kind of the understanding that it means providing mobile devices to my people, right? We buy some smartphones or tablets and we give them to our employees, contractors, maybe our suppliers, etc. Or suppliers not, but maybe our internal people, etc. And we think that is what mobility means, right? They now have a mobile device and they can use it, so they're fully mobile. And then I see another group of customers who think of it more as a process. So mobility or being mobile, for them, that means the way they do business. They want to allow their people, as you said, to be free, to have flexibility in the way how they perform the job. And as part of it, mobility is one piece of that puzzle. Mobile device, of course, is just the tool, right? So there I see the biggest difference, and I always encourage customers to think of it that way. We want to allow our people to be productive, and mobility can be part of that thought process, and eventually part of that work process as well.
Absolutely.
On another note, there are many different people who can interact or benefit from IT systems and mobile solutions as well. And I know, Janko, that you've been part of probably hundreds of different projects, and you work with some of the best known brands in Europe, but also globally. So what are the typical roles and the requirements for these roles that you have experienced over the years?
Yeah, actually, there are some. Well, no, there are many different roles, to put it that way, and just and all is related to the business requirement, right? And not just providing a mobile device. So it's how to integrate the mobility in the business requirements and in the business targets, and therefore we have different kind of roles like field technicians, managers, internal employees, administration level. We will have a deep dive later on into specific roles where we gain a holistic view for, let's say, two roles.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. That makes sense, and I'm glad that you're bringing it up, because in my experience, every role has some different requirements. So we'll definitely discuss that. But how about we ask our audience a question? What are the typical challenges that they face? And to make it easier for you guys to respond, we prepared some possible answers, and I just started the poll, so it should be showing up on your screens right now. If I may ask you, please spend a few seconds to read through the possible answers. But the question is, what are the most pressing, most obvious challenges that you see right now or facing as an organization, as a company, as a team, as a department, or you personally at the company that you work for? Again, this is a multiple answer question. So if there's 2, 3, feel free to pick them up. We'd be very interested to see what's going on with you personally or in your teams, in your companies. So there are some answers coming in right now, but let's give it a few more seconds. I see the numbers are changing.
Yeah, even, I mean, just let's put take the process, digitalization process. I mean, how many companies still are working on a paper level? And we faced, you just mentioned, we did a couple of projects, and in the past we faced some real benefits where we reduced the paperwork, especially when we digitalize the processes. And when it comes to invoicing, so that we reduced the amount of invoicing time frame required from paper to a digital process. So that was a big ROI in a short time period, what we learned and what we experienced, just as putting it in one example in here.
That's a good one, and I'm surprised how many companies still rely on pen and paper approach.
Yeah.
So let me close the poll now, Janko, if I may, because I think we have some results, and I'll share the results with all of us so that we can see what people are experiencing. So 2 biggest ones: user adoption, number 1, as the biggest challenge that companies face, and better understanding of key business metrics on the second place. Surprise, Janko, or not? Is that in line what you're hearing from customers you work with?
That is actually, I'm not surprised. No, that is what we hear. Yeah, user adoption is a big topic. It's an acceptance topic as well, and how to integrate everybody. Business metrics, of course, they're always playing a big role. Yeah, so the results reflect what we learned in our project as well.
Perfect. Thank you all for the participation in the poll. We'll have a couple more, but let's move on. There's one last topic that we wanted to bring on, and then we'll move on, promise. Continuous experience. And why I think it's important, I see it's a term that we actually borrowed from the company called Gartner, but I think it's like the end result of companies who decide to go fully mobile in a way that they do the business that way. And what it really means in real life, continuous experience really means that the company provides different ways how people can be productive based on their job, the job description, the characteristic of different tasks, etc. And they have a full palette of devices and tools to do these different jobs in the most efficient way. So example would be when I work with some companies in field service industry, the technicians start their day at home. They check on a larger screen how their schedule looks like. They have a nice overview of their calendar. They understand where they need to go. They plan the route, or the route is planned for them by the dispatcher. Then they get in the car, they use their phone, so a small device that they plug in so that they get the real-time navigation and route optimization functionality when they drive. When they arrive at the spot, and they just need to go over a quick checklist or questionnaire. And if they especially need both of their hands to do the job, they can use their smartwatch or smart glasses to stay connected to their systems while performing the job. And then later on, they of course upload everything using their smartphone, maybe collect a signature, create a final report, etc. So what it really means, the person who is out in the field doing the job, they have a whole spectrum of different devices and tools that help them at every step of the way. And that I see as the kind of the end state of effective mobilization of the business.
Yeah, and the next big topic would be also like the lenses, you know, for augmented reality will be the next level. It's also part of mobility and how to integrate the real world and the processes to be efficient in what I'm doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're really excited about augmented reality devices such as Microsoft HoloLens, or a company we partner with as well called RealWear, because we really believe that this is one way where the future is heading. It just needs to become more of a mainstream solution.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another topic, Janko, needs for mobile solutions. And I know that very often mobile solutions have diverse requirements that consider many different approaches. Can you comment on that a little bit? What does it mean to have different approaches based on different requirements?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy answer because because it depends also on the industry where we are heading, right? So, for example, if we are in an industry more focusing on a B2C level, then we could have products, and for those products, a dedicated mobile solutions or mobile apps. So of course you have that one external mobility part, which mainly is developed today individual by product. And then we have that classic B2B, or also like the internal services, where you also want to have the mobility and the flexibility, and there are different requirements. So for those different requirements, speaking into the internal processes, of course, we have the Microsoft Cosmos, the freedom with Power Apps to easy and fast create Power Apps for specific business requirements, right? Especially when it comes to administration level or desk sharing concepts, etc., etc. And then we have also, from a Microsoft and Resco perspective, the enhancement and the dedicated solution for field service processes. And there, of course, we will touch that later. The requirements, Microsoft or Resco, for example, could be also dependent on specific roles and requirements from each individual. So not an easy answer, but there are room for both versions, I believe, and for different approaches as well. So it is not just one solution. It could be a set of enhancements or mobile solutions. But at the end of the day, just having multiple solutions, if we have multiple solutions, we need to make sure that we have one data storage, so that we have not too many different interfaces and not many or different truths of data records.
And different data silos. Makes perfect sense. Yeah. You know what I'd be interested in understanding? What's important for our attendees when they're considering or looking for a mobile solution? I have some guesses, but how about we ask our audience what they think is important when they're considering a mobile solution? So I just started a poll again. Same thing, same rules apply, multiple answer. If you have some other ideas, feel free to share them in the questions. We'll be happy to look at those in a moment. And let us know what you think. Do you have any guesses what's important, Janko, for customers when they consider a mobile solution or mobile application?
Well, at least it should be simple. And simple, what does simple mean? I'm not really a fan of referencing a specific brand, but the brand I'm referencing is also called like a lake in the US, like Amazon. And if we see how easy and customer oriented Amazon is building his app, so it's self-explaining. The functionality and features are clear. You don't need to learn, so everybody understands what is needed. Okay, offline is not that topic, but based on such experience we are facing today, we have that, and we are transporting those experience into our business life, right? And we want to have same functionality, same easiness of mobile apps, to have that acceptance from the users, I believe.
I agree 100%. Let's look at what our audience thinks. Here we go. Number one, functionality and features. Everybody believes that functionality and features is really important. And then on the second place, we have user experience. And I would probably put what you described as simplicity or simple mobile application as part of the user experience. Because in my opinion, like a good application, as you said, you don't need much of a training to know how to use it, right? Everything is kind of very intuitive. The navigation should be simple, avoid too many clicks to get somewhere, or situations where I am somewhere in the application and I don't even know why or where I am really, right? Or how to get out of that screen.
Absolutely, yeah.
What about functionality and features? It seems like it's really important for our audience here to have a rich, functionally rich solution. Do you see that every customer has a list of must-haves and they have a good understanding what their expectations from the mobile application are?
Well, again, I believe it depends on the business requirements you are implementing on the mobile app. So I believe there are some generic functionalities and features required for the mobile app, but also dedicated to that specific process. And I believe the truth of both worlds. So having a general set how everything is working, to have a clear understanding for the mobile solution and how it works, and then all the functionality needed to perform that action on a mobile or on a smart device without having both worlds again, like a smartphone or a smartwatch, and then using the laptop to finalizing it. So if I'm providing a solution, it should be a 100% fully workable and to use on a smart device.
True. And then interestingly, the price slash return on investment and offline ended up on the shared third place. Probably not a surprise, right? Price is always part of the conversation. Is this solution going to cost me extra? Is it part of my license? How much does it cost? And is it a worth investment, right? Are the gains enough? Are the improvements that we get through the mobile solution, do they justify the investment?
Right. And even just let me raise that question. I mean, especially when we focus on the price and ROI level, and all know, I mean, if the attendees are out of the Microsoft cosmos, then everybody knows the Power Apps functionality comes basically with the with the Microsoft license agreement. So you have the capability of using Power Apps straight away within the company. So why should I invest actually in Resco? What is the benefit you see when you have a Resco solution compared to a Power App version from Microsoft?
I love that question, Janko. Straight to the heart. Good one. Yeah, it's a very fair question, to be honest. And yeah, this is something that lots of customers, but also partners ask us, right? So there is a Power Platform now. There is Power Application as a concept of providing mobile capabilities in the Dynamics world. Why do we need Resco, right? And I want to make it perfectly clear that there are some philosophical differences between how we approach mobility and what Power App is. And the main one probably is that we at Resco, we built a platform. So it's not a mobile application that we're creating through Resco. It's a platform that allows you to mobilize your dynamics or mobilize your people. So what's important is to have kind of a fair set of expectations when you start looking at Resco. On one hand, yeah, there's a price tag that is part of it because it's our technology. But on the other hand, with Resco, the story is pretty simple. And that story is anything is possible. And it's not just me saying it, uh, it's the hundreds of stories of our customers. And we've seen some of the most brutal, complex, and challenging cases where Resco was the only option for the customers. One that really comes to my mind, and I'm sure you remember the keynote at Resco Next, I think it was in 2018, when we had the team from United Nations joining Resco conference, and they shared the story how they use Resco to build an application for refugee identification purposes, and they use that solution now in I think more than 80 countries around the world. But some of the setups are like truly like nothing we've ever seen before. Uh, think of it as a refugee camp in the middle of literally in the middle of nowhere, where not that they don't have internet connectivity, they many times don't even have electricity there. So they bring their diesel generators on trucks to power up their laptops and other devices, and they set up a camp which is pretty much a tent, and they operate there for months. And the only solution that supports them is Resco. So when I say, yeah, there are certain benefits with Resco, and I think they're huge. They require some extra work, and they come at a premium price. But for companies for whom mobility is important to be effective, and if that's the only tool that their people have, I think it's an investment that pays itself off really quickly. Is that a fair answer?
That is an absolutely fair answer. And it
Okay.
jumps also into the topics. It depends on the business requirements as well, especially when United Nations, where are they all over the world, maybe on places where they do not have connectivity for long time, and they need also to make sure to have a powerful app, a full-blown app to do the job without the need of really having like a hybrid version also up and running. So yeah.
Agree.
Yeah.
And we're also we see that the world is not black and white, right? It's not like,
Absolutely.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm only gonna have Power App or I'm only gonna have Resco. I don't think the question that's the right question. What I've seen recently, there's one huge project that my friends at one of the partner in the US have been working on for over 18 months now. Large project, large nationwide customer. It was never a question, are we gonna use Power Apps or Resco? It was a question, for what users we gonna use the Power App and for what users we gonna implement Resco. Because as you mentioned in the beginning, there are different approaches, different roles. They all have different requirements because their jobs differ a lot, right? So it's about staying true to the customer and advising them to make sure that they're a happy, successful customer end of the day.
Absolutely.
Good. Shall we move on to the next one? And guys, let us know what you think so far, and if you have any questions, put them into the GoToWebinar. The next area, this is going to be a fun one. So mobile platform versus applications with mobile support. And I think we're now kind of cutting into the chest a little bit more, trying to explain the differences, right? But I feel like, if I may introduce the topic a little bit, it's about making the right decision on what I need as a company, right? Is it a mobile platform that allows me to mobilize my processes, etc., or do I need mobile applications that I can configure, etc., to make sure that they fit? But I think the main question that we should ask to give a right answer is, who are we building the solution for, and what that solution actually should be? And when I think about who do we build it for, the first thing that comes to my mind is mobile personas. And I know this is your domain, Janko. So can you walk us through a couple of examples of personas or roles at companies that really benefit from IT systems or technology in general?
Well, I try my best, Ivan. Before we jump into some possible mobile personas role, why personas? Just let me shortly describe that. Personas is helping to gain a holistic picture of the requirement for each role. And our experience is, since the last couple of years, when we jump into the persona creation with our customers, it's quite surprising what those, when each single responsible in his role thinks about what he really needs. It is slightly different from the starting, when he started, or she or he started writing his persona profile. After he thinks, then it enriches and changes as well. And therefore, I would please everybody to create personas beforehand, before thinking what type of solution or mobile solution approach are we going to follow. And based on such personas, you can easier make a decision of what could be the best fit for each role. And just let us pick two personas, as I mentioned earlier on. I would use the service technician and the service manager. Two different roles. Like the service technician, why I use the service technician. The service technician, also depending on the industry, of course, but he is basically a heavily mobile app user. His only environment is going to the customer, performing his job, and making sure that the mobile app is working, so that everything is noted down. And on the other hand, we have the service manager. They don't need the service mobile app day in and day out. They need it occasionally. So that was the reason why we picked them. And if I jump into the technician role, and think of some personas, for example, could be that they want to make sure that they can always work with the application, and they don't want to think, is that application only working when I'm online or offline? They want that it is working, and they want to be efficient. They want that the data is refilled, or reused. All the data we have already in the data base should be reused to efficiently help each technician. He wants to be proactively informed about new schedules, right? Yeah, he wants some information to perform, have the required information on hand to perform his job. And of course, it's also a requirement from the business, but not only from the business, also from each technician. They want to be they want to have a holistic overview about the requirements, about the spare parts needed, about the issues mentioned by the customers, to make sure that the first time fix rate is hit, and that they do not need to travel always back and forth to the customer, which was quite often happening the case in the past, but still is. And on the other hand, we have the service manager, and it could be possible that the service manager wants to have an overview about the service performance and quality independent of the device. So when they are traveling on the road, they want to have an overview as well. How is the service performing? And they also want to always have access to cases. It could be independent reason for escalation purposes, holistic overview about the customer. It could be possible that they are traveling to some customers. They want to have the information on hand so that they know about what is happening right now or in the near future on customer side. And also they want to make sure that independent of the customer level, like VIP or non-VIP, they want to be close involved when it's an escalation loop created, so that they make sure that the customer experience is high. Two different personas. It could be two different mobile app approaches.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and that was a fantastic explanation of the different personas and what their needs are, right? Because of the nature of their work is. I have absolutely nothing to add, because that was fabulous. One thing that I would add is on the side of mobile user experience. Again, we at Resco, that's what we focus on, right? That's the core of what we do. And if I could give a few tips maybe of what not to do is, and you named it so nicely, that example of field service technician or service technician, he or her only environment is the out of the office environment, right? That's their office, their car, and the premises of their customers or sites and different locations where they do the job. So the mobile device is usually the only tool that they have, and the applications or solutions running on them are the only piece of technology they interact with. So my piece of advice is, do not try to copy your desktop environment and fit it into the small screen. Think about the people's, the mobile people, the technicians' use case a lot, what they do, how they perform the job. And if you make that application work really nicely and really well for them and easy and simple, and as you said, always available because it's their only tool, right? They don't have a desktop or laptop in their car in case certain things don't go well. You're gonna see a lot of improvements. And also, yeah, choose tools that are optimized for mobile devices. You named it before. Sometimes it's small screens of smartphones, sometimes it's bigger screens of tablets, but sometimes it could be the super small screens of smartwatches or smart glasses, etc. So that's probably important as well. Good. Anything you want to add? We have a couple more topics, and I know that we have about 10 more minutes, so maybe we move on to the next one.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, let's do it.
Great.
And this is a hot topic. Offline as a feature versus offline as default. So probably the main question is 2021, what is it, end of August? Do we still need offline, Janko, in the 21st century?
Well, I would love to say no, but it's still a clear yes. We still have so many network lacks, especially when here also in Germany. I just had the last days when we were jumping into the content of our Fire Chat, right? I went to the homepage of the official network availability map for Germany, and I was really surprised that actually kind of everything was 4G available in Germany. And I thought, okay, based on that map, I should have access everywhere. Of course, depending on the provider, but in general, I have access. But still, sorry, coming back to the point, no, we don't have the network capabilities up to now, and we still need, at least in my opinion, offline capabilities. And I'm not talking about the big holes and a lot of steel where for example, technicians are working where machines are located or elevators are located. They by default do basically not have access to their environment. So they need tools and applications also to perform their job offline.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I agree. I can totally confirm that message. We see it. I'm originally from Slovenia. We see it here in America as well. That yeah, big cities have pretty good coverage, 5G networks rolled out, but there's a lot of dead spots where you don't have much connectivity, and then it's a question about how you're going to do the job if you have very poor connectivity, right? But also, I think we should ask our audience what they think about offline and its importance. So I just started a new poll this time, guys. Only one answer, please. Let us know what you think and what you see is important for your colleagues or your people who travel a lot and require mobile tools and mobile solutions. One other way that I look at it is offline as a functionality or feature, or as part of user experience that we already discussed before, right? And if it's just a feature, it's about talking about it. Yes, we have offline or we don't have offline, right? But what we learned over the 2 decades that Resco has been in business is that offline is more of a philosophy, right? And that's how we approach it when we develop our improvements and we're pushing out new functionality and features, etc. We always start with the question: can we make this work offline? And if we don't find a good enough answer that would lead us to no, and we always try our best to make that functionality available in offline mode. Examples would be reports. Examples would be we can even bring maps in disconnected mode because some customers required that. So we believe that offline contributes to overall user experience, because then people don't have to think about, is my application going to work? Am I going to be able to collect the data? Am I going to be able to, fill out the work order details, upload all the pictures, etc.? Or should I, like do it somewhere else and then update it later on? So all those questions can go away. That means the experience is nice. It's friendly for the user. Everything works as it should, no matter where people are. And we got some answers, so I'm going to share them. And surprise, surprise, people agree with you, Janko, that it's still a necessity. 2/3 of people think it's a must-have. So I think it's in line with what we're seeing as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good. One last topic while we're here, and that's offline. What it really means having an offline enabled technology, right? And a lot of times I see that people think, yeah, it means I have a local database, which is part of my mobile application. I store data there, and that's it. Perfect. Even some companies that I talk to think like, oh yeah, we're gonna build a custom application. We need offline and nice integration with Dynamics, for example. But yeah, we can build it ourselves because it's easy. But here, I'm not saying it's not possible. Definitely possible. But few things that I'd be really aware of, because we know that offline, it's not just about storing data in a local database. That is a big part of it, of course. But then it's about building a robust synchronization engine so that you can send all the records, all the changes securely, but also not lose any data on the way, etc. If sometimes the synchronization gets interrupted, your device dies, your application is closed, you lose connectivity in the process. So it's important to think about that as well. And there are two more things I think related to offline capabilities, and that's providing the option to filter the data for the mobile purposes in the most granular way possible, because bringing your whole database onto a mobile device is not the smart way to do it. So filter data, create a subset of records that you enable for the mobile users and their offline needs. And the last one is conflict strategy. That's something that I see a lot of people don't consider. I have records that I work with in offline mode. Somebody at the same time updates them on the server side. What happens then when I sync, right? So offline, much more than just storing data locally. Be aware of these little topics that can change the overall picture.
Agree, yeah.
Good, and that brings us to the last one, release cycle and maintenance. And really the reason we wanted to bring this one here is adopting a mobile technology. That means you're adding another software into your IT portfolio, right? It's a never-ending project. Usually it's not like, oh, I release it and that's it. It requires some maintenance, it requires some resources, some attention from your IT staff or your partners who are managing it on your behalf. So we thought we'd give you some ideas about what it means when you adopt Power Apps versus Resco. Janko, you're an expert. What does it mean if I adopt Power Applications? How does it affect my IT resources?
Right. I mean, talking about the Power Apps environment, and when we're talking about the Power Apps environment, we're actually talking about the Microsoft Dynamics environment as well. So Microsoft Dynamics is the base for the release cycle. All right. So as we all face day in and day out on our smart devices, there are app updates always available in the Google Store or in the Apple Store, where we need to update those apps. So that is also part of the mobile solution we are providing here on the Power Apps and Resco level. But on the other hand, we have the Microsoft Dynamics environment in the back. And the Microsoft Dynamics environment, we have two major changes on the application itself. And this also reflects to the Power Apps environment, which is initiated in spring and fall, right? But it's just the initiation of those waves rollouts and the new functionality, meaning we are not able to say that, for example, all the new functionalities are available in October or November. It is kind of a process within a time frame up to 6 months, where those functionalities are provided on a global level. And also there are some minor changes which are updated continuously through the year. So this is something what you have to keep in mind when you're using Power Apps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. I understand. So I believe all the audience understands as well. Because I'm not the most technically savvy person, and I got a good idea of how that works. With Resco, on the other hand, we have 4 major releases every year. The reason is that we're focusing a lot on mobility, and mobile technologies evolve at a tremendous pace. I'm sure you're all aware that we have new iPhones and Android devices released pretty much all the time, new screens, folding devices, and things like that. So that creates certain pressure on us to make sure that our technology is always compatible with these new devices and their operating systems. At the same time, as you mentioned, dynamics evolves, right? There are new versions introduced every 2 years. So we're making sure that the Resco technology stays nicely integrated and supports all the new features and functionality through the Resco technology as well. And the third reason for 4 releases is we have a ton of feedback from our existing customers, prospective customers, and partners as well. What they would like to see in the Resco technology. What are some must-haves that they need to have? And sometimes we try to align our roadmap with our enterprise customers to make sure that we're ticking off the boxes that are important for them in the long run. So all these reasons combined result in 4 major releases every year. Good news for our customers is though that we don't force you to keep the pace, keep up with our pace. We always recommend to update at least once a year because we think it makes a lot of sense. But we also have certain backwards support capabilities, so we can support some pretty old projects as well, but definitely recommend and encourage our customers to stay within a year time frame from our current release. Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Janko, I think this brings us towards the end, and I think our timing is perfect because so far we've been running for a little over 50 minutes. And I think we covered a lot of topics. So I hope that that the attendees here found some value there, as promised in the beginning. If you have questions, feel free to type them in into the GoToWebinar. We'll give you some time for that. Also, please feel free to reach out to Janko or me later on. On this slide, we put our QR codes. So if you scan that with your device, this will open Janko's LinkedIn or my LinkedIn. And I encourage you to create a connection if you haven't yet and shoot us a question that way. But of course, if you have some questions right now, feel free to type them into the GoToWebinar application. While we wait for the questions, any final words from you? Any recommendations, Janko?
Well, first of all, thanks for attending today's Fire Chat. And the recommendation is that keep your mind open, rely on personas, make sure that you understand the real requirements, and there is room for both. There is no just one truth. There are sometimes, as Ivan mentioned, not just black and white. It depends on the requirement level, and also, especially coming back to service technicians, it could also be the case that you don't need to make a decision for a specific role or area. For example, all within the administration area, they're going on Power Apps and all the others on Resco, for example. It could be also a combination within an area, also depending on the role. So you have that freedom, and we would be really happy to help you to identify what would be the best solution for your specific approach.
Excellent. Wise words towards the end, and I think that's the best finish. So thank you everybody for joining us. Janko, thank you very much for sharing your ideas and experiences and great tips. It was awesome to spend this last hour with you. I learned a lot personally, and I look forward to cooperating on some future Fireside conversations with you.
Same here. Looking forward.
Thank you, Janko.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Have a great day. Bye.